Okay, by the end of this lesson, you will be able to understand what area is, I'm hoping, derive formulas for the areas of rectangles and parallelograms, and apply a formula to solve problems. The examples I'm going to do are easier probably than some of the homework problems. The end homework problems are pretty tough. Okay? But they're real life problems. The problems that you're going to run into. Okay, Cole and Zach, are we ready? Okay. Starts out easy. We know this. What's the area for a rectangle?
Base times height. 8 times 3.
Base times height. Or you might have learned it in elementary school as length times width. Right? You multiply the two sides because the height is perpendicular to the base. So it's really nice, and I did on my answer key I'll scan my answer key. When you look at my work, except for the last couple of problems, you should be able to follow it fairly well. So area is equal to base times height, and so I'm going to put my work here, and it's 3 feet times 8 feet. Well, what is this actually asking us to find when we find area? Do you have your iPad? Okay. It's asking you to find, I don't like the definition here. It's the amount of space or whatever that's enclosed here. I've got 3 rows here, and I'm going to do 8 here. I'm glad it was 3 by 8 because that's easy to do. Whoops. Just ignore that little extra mark. And you know what area actually is? It is how many squares fit in this space. Literally, it's how many squares needed to cover that. So if I want to paint my wall, and if I have 1 foot by 1 foot wallpaper or paint, how many squares would it take to cover the whole wall? No, if it's 1 foot by 1 foot, I only have a little piece over here. But it's a square. I'd have to add them all up. So how many do you have here? When I have a lot of cats. I have 4 cats. So when I go to Cub, I don't want them to scan every single can of cat food because I go and I buy a lot because I have 4 cats and they eat a lot. So I stack them up in like something like 3 by 8. So if they know there's 3 cans here and 8 cans there, how many cans are there? 24. So they do 24 times whatever the price is, which is a lot easier than doing it one at a time. If I go to PetSmart, they want to know what I'm buying. So they scan everything one at a time, which drives me nuts. But anyway, so here's a little square, and that's what I'm trying to do. So it's 3 times 8. So what's the area? There's 24. And I'm talking about how many squares they are.
Feet squared.
So it's feet squared. You know that when I take 2 numbers that are identical, bases that are the same, I have an exponent of 2. So it's feet times feet. So it's feet squared. You should know that from science class, right? No? I haven't done that in science. Okay, we'll see. Okay, so that's it. It says the measure of the region. I don't know what that means. It's the number of squares. So what's volume? So I could find the volume for my water glass. It's how many cubes fit in here. Unfortunately, cubes don't fit in here very well, do they? Well, I'm going to have to do some slicing to get it rounded and everything, right? But that's really what it is. How many cubes would I put in here? So actually what I do when I go to Cub, I buy my cat food, and I usually have at least 2. It's 2 deep. It's stacked up 2, maybe 3. So then I just multiply that. Again, it's easy. Okay. So how do you find the area of any rectangle? Well, here's the formula. The area equals base times height, where A is the area, B is the base, and it doesn't matter which is the base because they're perpendicular, and H is the height. And if that's all we had to do, this would be too easy, wouldn't it? Yeah, we're going to have some missing sides sometimes. So I might give you the area and have you find the base or the height. Okay, you ready? So you can go to the next slide. And there it is. Now, I wrote my workout so that you don't have to guess where I got that answer. So the area here is base times height. So the area is 4 centimeters times 7 centimeters. How big is that, Zach? 28 what? Centimeters what? Squared, because I'm actually finding how many squares fit in there. Oh, we're doing area. Volume is how many cubes would fit in there. Well, this one's a little different, the second one. Here's the formula. Area equals base times height. And I'm given the area. So A is 24. The base is 8. And the height is x. How do I solve for x? Divide by 8, and I get x equals what? 3, and it's inches. Don't forget the units, because we're going to look for units in this unit. I'm not sure how we're going to grade it, but... Now this one's a little different. Base times height isn't challenging enough. We're going to challenge it a little bit more. So the area is equal to base times height. And I just wrote the formula right on the figure. Worked out pretty nicely. Well, the area is 40. What's the base?
5x.
5x. And the height is?
2x.
2x. Okay? You guys got it? So 40 equals, now do you remember how to multiply those two? 5 times 2 is 10, and then x times x is x squared. Remember that from last year? We just are doing that right now in quadratic. Okay, and then I'm going to divide by 10. Well, what's 40 divided by 10? Okay, TJ? 4 equals x squared. I can think through this problem, or I can actually solve it. I want to undo the squaring. What's the opposite of squaring? Now, good guess, though. Square root. Okay, I'm going to get real detailed here, because I want you to see it. Then next year, you'll actually be doing more with it. The square root of 4 is always a positive number. It's 2. It's never going to be negative. We choose square roots to always be positive, so we have a function. Then when I square root of x squared, it's not x. But I have to do it correctly so that you realize it. This has to be positive. Do you remember what function makes something positive? It's absolute value. Have you done absolute value? You should have done absolute value. It's part of the standard in 8th grade. Well, I look at it as going to jail. If you put a number in there, it comes out positive. Now, you may not remember from the beginning of the year, but I talked about solving. And solving means to find all the numbers that make that sentence true. What can you put in there into the absolute value that makes it true? Cole? What number can you put in for x that makes that true? The absolute value of what number is positive 2? There's an easy one. 2. The absolute value of 2 is 2. There's another one. The absolute value of what other number is also 2? It's negative 2. Absolute value takes away the sign. So it's 2 or negative 2. That's the correct solution to the algebra problem. But we're not in algebra. We are in geometry. So we go back into the original problem. And can x be a negative 2? Because if I had a negative 2 here, I would have a side that's equal to negative 10. That can't happen. So you will come up with the right answer because it's geometry class, but next year you're going to see the negatives start popping in there. So we have to figure out where they come from. It does not come from the square root. Square roots are always positive. So the answer is x equals 2. We can't have the negative. Technically we have it. We have the negative in the algebra problem, the algebra we use to model the geometry. So we challenged you a little bit that way.
It's not.
Yeah, I wrote it wrong. Said it right, wrote it wrong. It's positive there. Okay. Next thing we're going to do are parallelograms. Are you ready?
Yeah.
And there's my parallelogram. Here it is. Remember what's true about parallelograms. Opposite sides are congruent. And opposite sides are parallel, both pairs. Okay. When I find the area of a parallelogram, it's also going to be base times height. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off this triangle over here on the left. So I'm going to draw it so I can cut it. Whoops. And then I'm going to change it. Let's make it red. Okay? And I'm going to cut that off of there so it's gone, and I'm going to put it over here, and guess what I get? What's my new shape?
A triangle.
It's this one. This is my new shape. That's called a...
Square.
No, it's not a square. It's a rectangle. And we know how to find the area of a rectangle. The area of a rectangle is base times height. So the area of a parallelogram is also base times height. But be careful, because the height is the distance from one base to the other. It's always the perpendicular. So the height, actually, in this case, lies outside of my parallelogram. Well, it could be anywhere. I can also call it this one. There's my height. It's not the side. So we're going to throw some of those in there, giving you sides, and you'll have to make a decision on there. It's just the base times the height. Oh, nice. Okay, we ready? Now, the way I look at it is if you're at the top base and you were to drop a rock, it's got to go straight down. You can't go down the side. It's got to go straight down. No hills. So if I'm here, I drop the rock, it's going to come straight down. This is the height. Okay, let's fill in the blanks. The area is equal to base times height. It's the same formula where A is the area. TJ, what does B stand for?
B.
Yep.
Area.
No. Base. And what's H stand for? Height. Yeah, this isn't hard. The problems are hard. Yep. Just to fill in the blanks. Now, here's the nice thing about doing this on your iPad is because you have all your notes right there. You always have your notes. So you easily can go back and look at your notes. I don't know if you do that, but you could. Okay. So I've got 3 problems here, and the last problem has got a typo in it. We'll have to fix that. But so what's the formula here? Base times height. What's the base and height here? Times 7 centimeters, which is 70 square centimeters. And you're probably, I mean, that's an easy one, but you're probably going to want a calculator. It never hurts to write the formula because now we're going to do this one. So Cole, how do I do this one? The area is equal to base times height. Where do I put the 7.13? In A. So 7.13 equals the base. What's the base? Sydney? What's the base? 2.3 times the height. Okay, how do we have to do that, TJ? No, we're going to divide by 2.3. And you're probably going to want a calculator. Now, I did it this morning. Nobody got their calculators out, but I got mine out. And I said it's 3.1. And it's meters or square meters? Just meters. The area is the square meters. If you think about this is meters times meters. And let's see, the 2.3 is meters, so one of these will cancel out. I'm still left with a meter. Yes. Now this one has a typo in it, which threw me a little bit. This square is not right because this is perimeter.
Yeah.
Perimeter is just your length. Okay, Sydney? Hanson. Get the 2 out of there. The 2 is wrong. Okay, so we have a little mistake there. Now, this is more challenging. I'm given the perimeter, and I want to find the area. Okay, TJ, how am I going to do this? I don't have the base. That's the problem. So the area, TJ's right. Okay, guys. It's base times height. And guess what? I don't have the base. I have the height. The height is what? 10. Hey, Zach? How am I going to find the base? Zach?
Well, perimeter is 6, of course, we can kind of move 12. So opposite sides are 24.
That's 12, and that's B. So 60, let's write in equations. Equals.
B times 2 plus 24.
Don't throw, please.
Plus 20.
And you have to go clean that up. Plus 24. Okay. Current, how do I solve that?
You subtract 24 from 64. Which you get 40.
40 equals 2B.
And then you divide it by.
Okay, so B is equal to 20.
And then 20 times 10 equals 200 centimeters squared.
So B is 20 centimeters, so it's 200 square centimeters. So they get harder like this one because I'm asking for area. Make sure you answer the question. Yeah, and it threw me off because I saw the square centimeters there and it didn't make sense. And then I read it again and I go, oh yeah. Okay, so we are going to do lesson 1, and that is, there's 3 pages to this, 3 sides.